Hello, everyone, and welcome to another version of the Presence Posse Presents. And today's topic is presence and seasonal affective disorder. I remember when I was younger and we learned about seasonal affective disorder, it was connected to people who came from countries with a lot of light, and they moved to countries that didn't necessarily have a lot of light. And so they were encouraged to buy special lights and sit in front of the lights for at least an hour a day so that they could sort of give their body the impression that there was more light. So that's how I first discovered seasonal affective disorder. And today I have with me Malcolm Free, DJ Free, MC Free. We have so many names from Malcolm. They're all pretty wonderful names. And he's kind of an expert on neuro everything and an all-around great guy and coach. So, and you've lived actually many places, Malcolm, many places, and you have your sort of take on seasonal anything and how seasons affect you.
Yeah, I mean, being in the military, right? You get stationed different places. Alaska being one of the I don't want to say weirdest, but it's an experience. So saying and we have the days where the brightest it gets is probably dusk, and then it turns right back to dark, and then you have some days where it's just bright all day. So coming from what we call the lower 48, it's interesting, right? And your brain has to adapt, man. Like, like your body and brain has to adapt to that. And sometimes, you know, depression, anxieties, all that stuff gets set in because there's a change in the environment where you're used to sleeping, 7, 8 hours a night. Now it's like you're not getting that much sleep. Or, you're used to being up and moving and, but your body wants to go to sleep because it's dark. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of different things, your chemicals in your brain and body are reacting to the environment. And so therefore, once again, the biggest thing being depression, being anxieties, a lot of doubt, self-doubt seems to come up in those situations where you start doubting your presence, right? Your reasons for whatever you're doing. And that's why they tell you, like when in the months where it's dark or whatever, that you can go get a light or like UV rays. That's also another thing that plays a big difference, because when it's dark like that all the time, your body is not getting the UV rays, which is producing the vitamin D. So vitamin D deficiency becomes an issue during those times of the year. Same thing for like other people in the winter time. They really start suffering with vitamin D deficiency because it's cold, and so they stay in the house. They don't really go outside, to get the UV rays, to get the sun. So and of course, saying as health coaches or whatever kind of coach, we'll suggest supplements during that time of the year, like vitamin D supplements, vitamin C. But yeah, that whole thing, man, it's not just somebody being silly, right? There's a lot of different factors going on that's affecting these people. And if they don't have if they don't have the right people around them, or they don't have, the information on how to deal with it, then, it could take control of them, because depression and anxiety will take control of you if you don't control them.
That's actually, I'm really glad that you brought up the points also about the vitamins and this. Well, I'll start with that, the vitamins, because I had learned actually again when I was much younger in school, this vitamin D deficiency and how strongly it can affect us. And a lot of times, and way back then, because I'm pretty old now, most things were called psychological problems before we knew that they were medical problems, right? Vitamin D deficiency can cause symptoms that will seem psychological. And if you
Right.
just treat it as a psychological problem, then it can be considered, oh yeah, but this person can't be cured. Whereas giving them vitamins and all of a sudden they're fine. They even, I don't remember, and it's unfortunate that I don't have it in front of me, but they did research in a jail. And I read about this a long time ago also. They did research in a jail where they gave the prisoners vitamins, insisted everybody take vitamins, and the level of violence inside the prison went down. I think it was 25% because they weren't malnutritioned anymore. So there's something to be said for, because when I was starting to read again about, we chose this topic, so I looked again at seasonal affective disorder, and in my mind, it was a medical problem.
Right.
You've got a vitamin D deficiency, you've got a deficiency, but it's actually written up as some form of depression or anxiety, and I was really surprised about that.
Right. When you dealing with, anxiety, depression, and those types of things, man, it's mostly generated from something that is missing, right? Whether that is attention, whether it's love, whether it's, or it could even go as far as your vitamins, right? Vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin B, right? It's your body's way of telling you something's wrong here, something's not right. And with the vitamin D deficiency, it could get so bad because if you remember a few months ago, believe it or not, I dealt with vitamin D deficiency, and to where it got to the point my vitamin D levels were so low that I basically couldn't function, right? I had to stop everything I was doing. I had to, do what I had to do because at the time I was staying in the house a lot, right? I wasn't really getting out or whatever. But, during the football seasons, because I also coach Little League, I'm always out in the sun. I'm always out, running about or whatever. But then, once, the season changed and my season ended, I was in the house a lot. And as entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that work their business from their home, right? You stay in the house a lot. You don't get out a lot. You don't get out. You don't, unless you're trying to socialize or something. But what's happening is your body is starting to change and it's starting to adapt to the environment. It doesn't need, part of your body is saying, okay, we don't need this or we don't need that, or we're not getting this or that. So that sets off that depression or anxiety, starts setting off anxieties. And you'll find yourself getting upset about stuff that you normally wouldn't get upset about. Or, you feeling depressed or you feeling sad about it. And then you later on, you're like, what am I sad for? Right? Those are indicators. Those are not, that's just not a situation that just happened. Those are indicators that maybe something is wrong. Maybe your body is not producing or getting what it needs to get. So, you got to take those warnings and you have to pay attention to what your body is telling you. Because my body was telling me I had an issue, right? And even as a coach, I ignored it, right? And then I just kept working and kept trying to do this and trying to make this happen. And, make sure this business was going right, making sure my clients was right and all this, that I forgot about me.
Yeah.
And so, so by the time it really hit me, it hit me. So you just got to pay attention to what your body is telling you. If you start having thoughts outside of, your normal thoughts, right? You start having thoughts of, I hate to go as far as suicide, but if you're having suicidal thoughts and that's not who you are and you're trying to figure out why you're doing that, right? You might want to look into your intake, right? Your diet, especially your diet. What are you eating? Because a lot of times what you're eating will depress you, whether you know it or not. Right. So, so now you got to start paying attention to that. And you got to start paying to, is your vitamin D level? You got to go get checked up. Go to the doctor, get your checkups. If you haven't had a checkup in a while, go get a checkup. And, let the doctor see if your vitamin D levels are low or any of your vitamin D or any of your vitamin levels are low. Right. So you'll know how to address it and how, to start the process of taking care of yourself.
You're on also an interesting point when it comes to presence and seasonal affective disorder, because in order to notice not being yourself, not feeling yourself, that you're doing something that you don't normally do, you have to actually know yourself and be in touch with yourself. And in order to do that, then it's being present to what is, being present to what you feel, how you are. A lot of people, especially like now, it's Christmas. I don't know what it's like where you are, but people, even here, we've just sort of on our way to our next round of lockdown. Now we're all, being encouraged to stay home and work again because of this new Omicron virus coming into the country. but people are still running around doing Christmas shopping and running around. And now, of course, because there's already been a lockdown, people are trying to live, 2 years packed into the last month kind of thing. So they're out, they're around. And I wonder sometimes about, is anybody noticing what they're actually feeling? Is anybody noticing what's going on inside them?
No,
And that's pretty important when it comes to, if I know that I'm suddenly feeling really sluggish, or I'm reacting in ways that I don't normally do I like it? If I really notice that, if I'm really in touch with myself and really notice that, that's an indication I need to be even more aware, even more present to what's going on, I think.
right. A lot of people, that's at that age where they're doing the ripping and running for Christmas and the holidays, and they're doing all these different things. They're conditioned to do it mentally, right? To the point that they don't pay attention to, they just write it off like, okay, I'm tired, right? I've been doing this, they just write it off as I'm tired. But then the next day they get up and they're still tired, but yet they're still running. So then the next day they're even more tired, but yet they're still running, right? And they're not stopping to say, okay, look, wait, what I mean? I need a day or two off. Or I need to, pay attention to what's going on with my body. Because your body, if you're getting enough sleep, if your diet is correct, if you're, doing the things you know, doing the things necessary to take some of the stuff off of your brain, take some of the stuff away from you, as far as like journaling, getting some of this stuff out of your mind, right? Get it out of your mind. And I tell people this all the time, right? When you're going through things, right, you have to take this stuff out of your head, right? Out of your brain. You have to take it out and you got to put it on paper, right? Because as long as it's up here, as long as it's in your brain and you're just thinking about it, oh, I got it, I got it, I got it, you're just filling your brain with a bunch of information that's unnecessary, right? So then you start trying, then you notice you'll start forgetting, right? You'll start forgetting certain things. Just, okay, why did I, you find yourself in that situation because you need to clear some of this clutter out of your brain. And the only way to do that is to write it down. Once you write it down, now you can evaluate it, honestly evaluate it. Is that necessary? Right? Because if you don't, you got to understand where this is sitting at in your brain and where this is working at is right next to your emotions. So so now you're emotionally connected to the information. But if you get it out of your head, you can look at it, right? And say, okay, that's not that important. Okay, this is priority, right? Start prioritizing the stuff that's in your head. So now you have a format to go by so that you're not cluttering your brain, and then now you can work more time management, right? Once you get it out of your head, because it's in your head, you're not putting the time on it, right? You just know you got to get it done. But if you take it out of your head, you can put it, and prioritize it. Now you can sit back and say, okay, this is priority. I don't know, I got from this time to this time to get this done. Now you can start working your time management. So you're not stuck with 25 different things to try to do, what I'm talking about, and thinking that you don't have the time to do it, right? So you have to set that time to do it. This lowers your anxiety levels, right? It's not going to, take it away but it's going to lower your anxiety levels, keeping you out of that depressive state so that you can sleep at night, so that you can, keep it moving during the day, right? You might have a list of 30 things that you're trying to get done, right? But if you break it down and say, okay, I'm going to get these 30 things done in a week, right? I'm not going to try to get it all done today. I'm going to get these 30 things done. I'm giving myself a week to get this done. And then I say, okay, well, I'm going to do 3 a day or whatever the case is. Do 3 of these things a day, accomplish those 3 things, making sure you accomplish those 3 things, and then keep it moving. That lowers that anxiety. That takes away some of that depressive state. It takes away some of the fight, right? It takes away that because now you're in control. And the brain doesn't like your brain, my brain, anybody's brain doesn't like to be in control, right? It likes to be in control. It likes to know what's coming up, what's happening, what time we doing this, right? That's your left brain wants to know the time, the numbers, right? Your right brain, saying, oh, we got all of these things we got to do. Woo, we got to get the kids. We got to do this. That's your right brain and all the colorful things and all the possibilities. But your right brain is sitting there saying, hey, what time? How are we going to do this, right? The left brain wants to know the who, what, when, where, and why, right? And then how. So it wants to know that. And if you don't give it that, that's going to cause your brain to go in a state of depression or or you're going to get depressed. You're going to get that anxiety, right? Your cortisol levels rise. You feel what I'm saying? Or lower, depends on who you are. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about, and getting you to that depressive state, and you don't want to be there because now you're no good to yourself at that point, right? You're just a zombie walking around just doing things, and you have, excuse my terminology, you half-ass do the stuff that you need to accomplish, and then later on you got to come back and try to fix it, which causes you to double work the situation instead of get it, complete it. You know what I'm saying? Do the best you can with the situation, whatever it is you're doing, complete that situation, and then move on to the next one, right? This is where you keep that anxiety, you keep that depression at bay. You know what I'm talking about? And your brain is still able to function and do all the other things that you have to do outside of the holiday stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information in there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And good sort of action steps for people to take. I think one of the things about noticing whether or not you could have seasonal affective disorder, not you, but I mean generally anyone,
Right.
is to notice. I actually kind of like that idea, this sort of writing things down, but I was thinking, write down how you feel. Write down the things that are happening, the things that you notice about yourself that seem unusual for you. And then start thinking, like once you have that list, start noticing what changed. When did this start and what changed?
Right.
Because there was originally we talked about the seasonal, or SAD as they call it, seasonal affective disorder, SAD. People from Israel moving to Norway. I live in Norway. Norway in the winter is quite dark. For many of the hours of the day, it's quite dark. Your afternoon, like the sun begins to set at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it's very quickly dark. So by the time I'm leaving work at 3, maybe 4 in the afternoon, it's already nighttime. And if you come from a country where it's mostly light, and then you go to a country that's mostly dark in the wintertime, that has to do something to you.
Yes.
But if you don't know that, if you don't think about it, you just think, oh, well, I just moved countries, right? I just moved to a different country. You may not realize that it can affect you. So the idea of being present to what's going on with you, and then noticing what changed. When did this start happening? What changed? And then talking to somebody about it so that there's help, like even as we've spoken about with vitamins, with light therapy, as they call it. There are other things you can do. There's things you can do with your day, with your schedule that can help. I remember I was at a conference for a week up in northern Norway in the summer. And it was May, actually, so it was spring. And the sun doesn't go down in northern Norway in the spring, summer. So it was, my brain understood the situation to be that it was perpetually 4:00 in the afternoon. Like the sun was there and it didn't go up and down. It went this way. It was like perpetually 4:00 in the afternoon, bright sun, and people lived their lives with no time frame. So like skidooing is really popular. You guys can say skidooing where you are? Like
I've
the
never heard of.
snow
Oh, yeah.
sled things. Yeah.
Right.
There's a snow, like a water ski, but with snow. So you're on the snow and you're skidooing. We call them skidoos because that was the brand name. Skidooing around at 3:00 in the morning. You hear like tons of people out in the middle of the night skidooing in broad daylight because the sun says it's 4:00 in the afternoon, bright and sunny, summer day.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So there was I had people calling me at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah, I got some questions about work. And I'm like, it's the middle of the night, people. Like, right? So there's that, you just kind of lose your footing in a way. What's up, what's down? It's, how sometimes people get in the water and they get kind of vertigo and they lose their sense of direction. Then they
Right.
start swimming in the wrong direction. They think they're going
Mhm.
up for air and they're actually going down.
Right.
It's kind of like that. You just lose your orientation, right? And
Right.
after a couple of days of that, it didn't take very long, a couple of days of that, I was, doing anything I could. I was putting towels on my eyes to try and make it look darker at night. I was hanging things in front of the window, anything just to make it seem slightly darker. Nothing helped. By the end of the week, I was exhausted
Yeah.
because it
And
was daylight, broad daylight all the time. So I can imagine like that. It didn't take very long before I felt uncomfortable. And I
right.
was very glad to come back to Oslo, where it was actually quite a bit darker. And then I had the opposite thing. It was actually quite a bit darker. And it was less light.
Yeah.
Uh, and so things sort of balanced out. It was a very interesting experience. So I can imagine for people, as I say, who came from countries where there's a lot of light, and they come to a country where it's darker, or you go from dark, which is 6 months of the year in Norway, approximately up in the north, where it's dark all the time, and then it's light all the time for 6 months of the year. It does something to you. We are living organisms. We are nature. We are just like the flowers that hang when they don't get enough water, or they can dry out when there's too much sun or whatever. We're like that.
Mhm.
And remembering that we are biological beings, and that, but we have this added dimension of consciousness where we can notice what's going on with us, and we can do something about it before it's too late. Like you say, you're tired and then you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and you're still tired. That should tell us something. If we're in touch with ourselves, if we're present to what is with ourselves, we notice and we can act, make good, informed decisions, sometimes with help, so that we don't get into more of a problem.
Right. I mean,
So this
well,
can be staved off.
and the thing about it is, this situation happens, and what you think is just happening to you, but you know what I'm saying, it's also affecting your relationship. It's affecting your work performance,
Yeah.
your sexual performance. It's affecting you in so many different ways. But you know what I'm saying, like we get wrapped up into the emotional part or the depressive state, and all of this stuff is affecting you in so many different ways that you have to get help, or you have to find ways to to help yourself in that situation. Like in Alaska, we put aluminum foil when it's just bright all the time. We put aluminum foil on our windows, so you know what I'm saying, so and that blocked it out about as good as anything else you can come up with. I know in certain places they have the shutters for windows. They have the shutters, and you shut the shutter, right?
Mhm.
And to keep the sun out or whatever. And that was pretty effective. Um, and it's a certain thing that we used to call blackout, right? You know what I'm saying? But you have to get to that state, and you have to maintain a, a form of homeostasis within your, I mean, for yourself and your life, right? Because if you don't understand that, it's going to affect you in more ways than one. It's going to affect you more than just anxiety, right? It's going to affect you in so many different ways. So you have to just have things in place. And one of the best things that I found for me in those situations is managing my time, right? And is I know that at this time in the morning, I know I got to do this, right? I know I do my meditation and all that stuff in the morning, and by this time I'm doing that. Once I get on that track, what I'm saying, then I just stay on that track. I know at this time I go to bed. So if I'm staying on course of what I do, my routine, right? And you might want to change your routine up every now and then, because the brain, is like, okay, here we go again, and it's not excited about nothing. But you know what I'm saying, mostly you want to stay in that part where you're doing things, purposely doing things at a certain time of the day to keep your brain in, because your brain is like a sense of timing. I really don't. I mean, I haven't read this or studied this, but I don't think the brain really, what I'm saying, really knows, right? It just does what it do. And when you're tired and sleepy, then the brain says, okay, go to sleep, because I got to go to work. Because that's when your brain does the most work, is when you're asleep, right? So, what I'm saying? So you got to have a sense of timing. You have to have, you got to be able to run your clock and be able to manage your time throughout that process. And then in that process, you also got to pay attention to your emotions. You got to be present in your emotions and how you are there or not there for other people that are needing you to be there, whether it's work, whether it's family, what I'm saying, or whether it's church or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And you can't be there for them in this state, in this sad state, right? You can't be there for them because you're not there for yourself. So you have to control this thing, and you have to, do what you got to do. There's many coaches out there that can work with you. Miriam's pretty, pretty good, pretty good. Yeah,
Thank
you know
you.
what I'm talking so you know what I'm saying. There's other coaches out there like myself that can give you the information that you need to help you get beyond it, right? And the worst thing about it, they say during this time of year, suicide rates rise, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, there's other things that said that's not true, but either way it go, right? These are things that you want to avoid. Now, once you get you to a safe place, now you got to start looking at the people around you. Are they in a safe place? Because if they're not in a safe place, is mentally in a safe place or physically in a safe place, that's going to affect you whether you know it or not, right? If you got children or your spouse, right? You could be good and got your time management and doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, taking your supplements, but your spouse isn't, right? That spouse not being in that state is going to affect you whether you know it or not. So that's something as a couple or as a family that you might want to put some emphasis in, right? As a family, we're going to make sure everybody's, taking these supplements, keeping their vitamin D levels up. We're going to talk to each other, conversate. We're going to have conversations like, how are you feeling today? Or what's going on with you today? Or what do you need help at today? Those conversations need to happen. Another thing a lot of people like to do in those situations, they like to isolate themselves, right? Understand that the human brain, the human body needs interaction. It needs human interaction. It needs, the handshake, the hug. It needs the conversation, right? Because if it doesn't, then the brain starts to try to find something. And if it doesn't find something, it will make up something. Now we're going into something different, right? But anyway, it'll make up something. And that's whatever that is might not be true. But the brain, it's a coping mechanism for the brain, right? It's going to make up something so that it has something, you know what I mean? So it has something to do. It has something
Keep
to
itself
feed.
occupied. Yeah.
Right. You feel what I'm saying? So
Mm.
you have to understand this. And you know what I'm saying? And like I said, maybe you do, maybe, maybe you can do it on your own. If not, get a coach in those situations. Get somebody that's going to talk to you and help you through that situation so that you're not stuck in that situation.
I think one of the things that's important to know about seasonal affective disorder in regard to this is that it is at more or less the same time of the year every year. So year after year, for example, around when winter starts setting in, or when it starts getting darker, the solstice or whatever, that you'll start noticing that you get depressed or tired or irritable or whatever it is. So again, we have this sort of biology, and everybody's biology is different. Everybody has their own seasons. Again, we're organic beings in an organic world. If you notice, if for people who notice that that's happening, it's like, okay. I think for like, there's so many things that are easy to relate to, like some people on the anniversary of the death of a significant other, they will find themselves getting depressed. Or if they were always alone on Christmas and they didn't get any presents, they will find themselves getting depressed around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Or women once a month, not all women, but many women find themselves irritable, tired, whatever, once a month at a certain time because they have the cycle. So there are many ways to relate to what's called seasonal affective disorder. Even when it's not a season, we're connected to a season. I think most of us will be able to understand on that level that it's possible that at the same time every year we get a little bit hinky. And the more, if I'm going to take it to my own, like my mother died. This is the anniversary of my mother's death. And I actually don't feel, I feel love actually is what I feel. But it wouldn't necessarily have to be that. It could have been that I felt grief. And it wouldn't be surprising if I felt grief every time this date came up every year since her death, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessary. I wouldn't call that seasonal affective disorder, but it is connected to something that happened once. And so it returning every year around that time wouldn't be a surprise. So when I know that that is the case for me, if that were the case for me, then I could make sure to be present to what's going on with me, not judge it, not try and make it go away, not
Right.
do anything other than be with it. And I can also make sure then, because I know that that would be the case for me, if that were the case, I could make sure I surrounded myself with friends, people who love me. I could make sure I do something good for myself. I could, if I needed rest, then I make sure I rest. If I needed laughter, I made sure I maybe saw a funny movie or went to a funny play or did something that I thought was fun, sort of to give myself the care and attention that I need if I have that kind of recurring event every year. So whether it's seasonal affective disorder or a reminder that awakens a kind of grief in me or something, whatever it is, sleeplessness, or maybe my head starts going, the thoughts, and I should have been there for her or whatever. That is fortunately not the case. But if it had been the case, then that's a sign that I need to take care of myself and get more in touch with myself. Any kind of, I was going to say deviant behavior, but I don't mean it like, I don't mean it like you're a deviant. I mean, like, it's not my usual behavior. If I notice something that's a bit off with me, that is me trying to tell myself,
Yeah.
listen to yourself, pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to yourself, be
Right.
with yourself, notice yourself, give yourself the love that you need, and then it will balance itself out. If I
Yeah.
don't, it's not, don't try and run from it, ignore it, press it down, distract myself. Not what I need.
Right.
That's probably not what I need. But by being in touch with myself, I will know what I need.
Right. Here's the thing, right? When we say seasonal, whatever, right? We think winter, spring, summer, fall, right? But each individual person, everything in life has a cycle. Your cycle is different from my cycle. Your life cycle is different from my life cycle. And, in your cycle, during certain points of the year, 12 months, if we take 12 months, you can take 15 months, however you want to do it, right? You take 12 months, right? There's certain things within your cycle, right, that will set you off or that will change you, that will make you go to a certain state, right? Seasonal living, not seasonal living, but seasonal is not just winter, spring, summer, fall. You got to look at the seasons of a person's life, right? You got to go a little deeper than that because, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like what you said, this time of the year, right, is, that thing about your mom comes up. You feel what I'm saying? And that's a part of your cycle, right? And how you deal with that part of your cycle will determine it will either change or it will maintain the cycle in the direction that it's going, in the way that it's going, right? Because after you go through your depressive state or whatever the case is during that point of the cycle, right? What's next? Now you got to come out of it, right? You might be in that cycle, that depressive state for maybe 30 days, 45 days, maybe, whatever. And then all of a sudden you got to come out of it. Now you got to come out of it. You got to start the process. You know what I'm saying? It's just a cycle, right? It's just in your seasons. That's that part of the season. That's the time of the season. So, you know what I'm saying? So once again, for everybody else, right, their season may be whatever. And if you pay attention to your life, because I remember at one point in my life, well, a point in my life, every September, my birthday is September, right? Is in September. Every September, October, November, at one point, I was always in some type of trouble. I was always in some type of trouble right around my birthday or right after my birthday. Always, right? For like 5 years. And then I noticed it, right? And I changed it. I said, no, this ain't going to happen, because I started noticing the things that I did prior to my birthday, right? To my birthday, the things that I was doing prior to my birthday, right, was paying off either on my birthday or after my birthday, right? The things that I thought I was getting away with, or the things that I thought I was always into something mischievous, right before my birthday. So right after my birthday or during my birthday is when, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to reap before you sow, correct? The Bible tells you that. So you're reaping, right, in the months prior to, and then you're just benefiting, you're just sowing. You know what I'm saying? You're reaping afterwards. You're sowing this thing before, and you're just in a pattern. You're in a cycle of, you know what I'm saying, sowing and reaping. You're in that cycle. So, you know what I'm saying? So like, a certain time of the month, certain time of the month for women, it's a certain time of the month that this cycle is happening. Everything in life is in a cycle. If you figure out the cycle, then you learn how to deal with the cycle. The cycle is coming, right? The only way that cycle changes is if you change. That cycle will not change until you change. Now, your body chemistry, the way your body does things or whatever, here's the thing, right? Reduce stress, work on eating, your eating habits, maybe get out and do a little more, PT or workout or whatever the case is. That part of you will change. It has to change because your body has changed, right? Now, it might come earlier, it might come later. It might come hard or it might not come as hard as it normally comes. Because some women, they're totally out of it when it's that time of the month for them. So, what I'm talking about? But if you look at what they're doing, right, they're not doing anything to change themselves. They're not doing anything to change the cycle. So what is all, and that goes for anything, finances, that goes for spirituality, that goes for whatever. Everything's in a cycle. And you have to figure out that cycle, and you have to deal with your own life cycle. Can't nobody else, I can't deal with your life cycle. I don't even know where to begin. You know what I mean? Because I haven't been through what you've been through. I haven't seen the things in life that you've seen. I'm not emotionally connected to the things that you are emotionally connected to or spiritually connected to, right? So I couldn't deal with I can't deal with not just your period cycle, but your life cycle, right? You have to deal with that. And as long as you sit back waiting on somebody else to help you to deal with that for you, you're going to keep going through that same cycle, or you're going to go worse. Because, it's two things about growth is when it comes to life. Two things about life growth. You can grow up or you can grow down. Either way it's go, you're going to grow, right? Life is not going to stop because you decide to stop. Growth is still going to come. Now, how you grow is totally up to you. So, you know what I'm saying? So when you learn that cycle, right, now it's about, okay, so what do I do? What do I have to do to get beyond this depressive state in my cycle, right? How do I get beyond this financial depressive state in my cycle, right? What do I have to do? Because sometimes one reason a lot of people don't deal with the holidays or don't like the holidays is because like when I grew up, right? I grew up noticing yeah, I had a wonderful Christmas, woohoo, but here it is 4 or 5 months later, my parents are still paying for Christmas. You know what I'm saying? They're still paying for the toys. They're still paying the high light bill because of the lights and all. They're still paying for that kind of stuff 3 to 4 months later, which left us in a bad situation for those 3 or 4 months. Unless my parents did something extra to bring in more money to try to, cover the differences. So, but you knew that this was coming, right? So what do you do prior to that? What are you going to do prior to that? What kind of work are you going to do prior to that so you don't have to go through that? Right? Okay, maybe you got to work a little harder. Maybe you got to work, take on an extra job before the holidays come, right? So you can have that extra income so you're not struggling after the holidays. And that's where depression sets in too, right? Depression sets in there too because you hear Christmas is over with. And I still owe $3,000 for this and this, and this. Right. So you think that's not depressing? Yeah, that's gonna set you off. You know what I'm talking about? That's gonna set up some anxiety, especially if you're not making that kind of money to really cover your normal living state plus that, plus the extra, what I'm saying, extra $300-$400 a month that you got to pay for this stuff for Christmas. So that's going to raise your anxiety. That's going to raise your stress levels. That's going to raise that up too. So, you got to look at the whole picture until you do something prior to that in the process of sowing, right? So you can reap better benefits in the end. And that's what and that's what your cycle is identifying what's in your cycle. Identify what's in that cycle, right? And if you look at me, I'm doing like the infinity thing here. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? What's in that cycle? And, being able to go back and say, okay, I know this is coming, right? let me do some sowing right now in this season so that I can reap the benefits in this season, right? And you have to go through that process. And saying, and I'm a firm believer that the creator of creators left indicators to us as creators on how to create. So he left us the four seasons for a reason, right? He left us the four seasons for a reason. Because whatever you do in the summer is probably not going to sell in the winter. This is business, right? It's probably not going to sell in the winter. So what I'm saying, so you got in between summer and winter, you got what?
Maybe fall.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with it. Now, you know what I'm talking about? So, what I'm saying? So during the fall, during the season of the fall is when you're doing your sowing. This is when you're doing the work so that you can benefit in the winter, right? But see, a lot of people, and I'm getting into business, a lot of people try to sow and reap in the same season. That's not how the book is written. That's not how it goes, right?
It's
And
kind of like
even when
expecting the flowers and the fruit and everything to be there before you've planted the seeds and watered them.
right, you know what I'm talking about? And and it goes as far as business, it goes, what I'm saying, it goes into your emotions, your emotional state too, right? It goes into your financial state. It goes into whatever's your spiritual state, right? So you got to put in the work in order to reap. You got to do the sowing before you can reap. And when you realize your cycle, now you know that you have to do this work so that you can have better. So when we get into, the seasonal thing, I just wanted to clarify that it's not just winter, spring, summer, fall, right? Each person has their own seasons in life, their own life season. And you have to figure out your life season. If you want things to change in your season, in your cycle, then you have to change the work that you do in the seasons that you do them in. Am I making sense?
Yep, you're
You
making
know what I
sense.
mean? So
Yes.
anyway, I'm off. Let me get
So
off
I'm
of
going
here.
to add a little sort of thing in there.
The
Oh,
joke.
it's really fun to listen to you, actually. One of the things I was thinking about is I'm a singing teacher as well. Because I do music therapy, I also do singing teaching. And one of the things we learn is if you're having trouble with a note in a song, take a look at the note before that note,
Yep. Yep.
because the problem's starting already there. It's not
Right.
that note by itself. It's what are you doing before you get there? And the idea of seasonal affective disorder, just so I mention that, and also in regard to what you just said, if you've been diagnosed with it or you think you have it, it doesn't mean that that's the way you are your whole life. That's not pronounced a diagnosis and that's you for the rest of your life. Taking steps, learning about your cycles, learning about yourself, noticing signs in yourself, you can, because everybody reacts in certain ways to certain things. So seasonal affective disorder doesn't have to be any different than that. So it's knowing who you are, where you're at, what you're experiencing, so that you can safeguard against the worst times. You don't have to think that, oh yeah, God, we're coming up on October and I get depressed every October and I'm depressed for 4 months and it happens every year. It might, or you might learn to do something differently or how to meet yourself in a good way so that it doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen that badly. So that you don't have
Right.
to add anxiety and irritability to the mixture that's already there by ahead of time, even already setting yourself up for, oh God, for the next 3 months, I'm going to be depressed. So I got to be desperate now for next 2 months. I got to be desperate before the depression hits for 3 months. It's like,
Right.
nah, that doesn't have to, I mean, you can choose to have that, but it doesn't have to happen like that. It
Right.
can happen where, oh, I'm getting into a place where I feel like I need to take care of myself a little bit extra. Maybe I need to cut down on my work hours. Maybe I need to make sure I go out in the park a little more often every day or something like that, or be with my family more, whatever it is that you learn, stay present to what's going on with you. You learn. And just like the world, no seasons are the same. We know that, we assume that winter comes every year. We assume that spring comes every year. But what winter is the same as the last one? What spring is the same? There's always, every spring is different. Every winter is different. They come at different times even. Around about the same time often, but sometimes, like where I live now, we had the longest summer. And then all of a sudden it was snowing. It was like, wait a minute, what happened? So it's kind of like Our seasons are like that. They're somewhat predictable. We know we have them, but they're not always the same. So
Right.
presence and seasonal affective disorder, presence in anything is, as you're saying, just, stay in touch with yourself, notice what you need, and then give yourself what you need. That's the biggie.
Right.
Give yourself, because the part of the journey is not only knowing what you need, discovering what you need, it's actually finding out how to give it to yourself. What do I need? How do I make sure I get it? Is it something
Yeah.
I do for myself, or is it something I need to ask somebody for? And sometimes it means going to the doctor and getting medicine.
Yeah.
Sometimes, absolutely, that's what it is. If you need a blood test, you need a blood test. If you need an operation, you need an operation. That is part of being present to what is and what you need.
Right. They and back piggybacking off of what you said, a few minutes ago. The thing about it is, every October, always depressed or whatever, right? And what you've just done was you've accepted that as your reality. You've accepted that in October I'm going to be depressed, right? You've made a mental decision
It's like a
that you
contract with yourself, yeah?
right, you're going to have this depressive state in October. You have
Signed,
made that
sealed,
decision,
delivered, yeah.
right? So, therefore, it's going to show up. It's going to appear. Even if it's not there, your brain is going to make you think it's there because you've accepted it, right, as your reality. What I'm saying? Not saying that, there are not certain things that will happen. But if you sit back and like you go into something saying, oh, I'm going to be depressed in October, whatever the case is, October, November, right? I'm going to be depressed. Those are the worst years. Those are the worst months of my life every year, da 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 da. You've accepted that. So guess what? Now your brain is looking for things to make you depressed, right? So when you connect to those things, you automatically feel what? Depressed. But if you go about your life and not say that to yourself, right? Because the worst conversation or the best conversation you can have is with yourself, right? Because you sit there saying that this is the worst time of my life. It's going to be the worst time of your life because you are already programming yourself to look for the negative. You're already programming your brain to look for, because here's the thing about your brain will never make a liar out of you. It won't. It's whatever you say, the brain is going to make that so, whether it's real or not. Your brain is going to find the information to make what you believe reality to you. Might not be reality to nobody else but you. And your brain will automatically put it together. It will bring stuff, it will find stuff, it will connect to things to bring it all together to make you right about your world. So, what I'm saying? So you have to go through a process of saying, okay, you might say that, okay, in October, November, I always have, I'm always depressed. I'm always having a bad month, or I'm having a financial, I'm always in financial debt or whatever. Okay, so you've identified the problem. What's the next step? Right? Gather the information. Gather the information. Now you're fulfilling, now you're putting information in front of your mind to shape your brain so that you can physically, mentally, and spiritually do the things necessary to get away from that situation. Because if you focus on the problem, and I say this on my show all the time, right? Right? Whatever you focus on becomes your reality. If you focus on your problems, then your problems will remain your reality. But if you focus on the solution to the problem, then the solutions will become your reality. You got me? So if you focus on every month, I'm depressed, in October, I'm depressed. That's what you're focused on. So that's what's going to happen. Right? Or this October, I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going, what I'm saying? You got to talk to yourself. People say, don't talk to yourself. You better talk to yourself. I'm just being honest. You better talk to yourself, because you got all of these different words and all of these different things being said by the media, by people, by whatever that's talking to you, that's shaping your brain to live a life that you don't want to live. So when we get back into, the sad part, we get back into sad. This is also what's happening, because your brain is thriving for conversation. It's thriving for new information, but you're not giving it to it. So therefore, the brain does what? The brain starts to create information, starts to find, there's a shadow in the closet. Your brain will start creating shadows in the closet when there is no shadows in the closet, because you sat up there and watched 3 horror flicks, you know what I'm saying, while you was in your depressive state. You know what I'm saying? Am I going too deep with that? Am I?
If it makes you, I was going to say, if it makes you feel better, watch the horror movies.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring something into the mixture. I keep sort of thinking about bears and hibernation.
Mm,
Like there are, we're talking about cycles and this seasonal affective disorder, SAD, and everybody's cycle is different, and all seasons are different. There's also, we're animals, we're organic beings, and we're not all the same. So some of
mm,
us may need to may may need to hibernate.
yeah.
Some of us might be bears, and we
Bearish.
need a period of time, and it may be the same around about the same time every year, where we need to become more introverted, for example, spend more
Mm-hmm.
time in quiet. You watch a bear, just to sort of show the perspective, a bear preparing for hibernation. They know they're going into hibernation. They start, putting on weight. They start collecting things and putting them in a particular place because they're going to be spending time in that place for a while, for example. They prepare for hibernation. And then they're in hibernation for a while, and then they start waking up. The season sort of decides it gets warmer, for example. They start moving around. They're much thinner. They're maybe a bit stiff. They've got to play a little bit more so they can train their muscles again. They have to find food. There are some of us who are bears.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's not because this is tis the season to be jolly part of the year, right? We sing about that. Joy to the world and tra la la. And you might not feel like that. That might not be you at all. You might be a bear, right?
Yeah.
So it's time to put on the weight, to prepare, to collect things, to not walk around joyful. And if you don't feel joy, instead of making yourself, because tis the season to be jolly, well, I'm not jolly. I don't feel jolly. And that's how it is for me right now. Then that is how it is for you right now. And honor that.
Yeah. That's
So, yeah,
okay.
there are many ways. And I love the way that, Malcolm, you explained how people can work with what's going on with them. And just to make sure that it's clear, it's also honoring what you are feeling. If you feel sad, if you feel depressed, if you feel lonely, if you feel frustrated, if you feel irritated, whatever you feel, tired, or less tired, you're sleepless, you're sleepy, that's how it is for you right now.
Mm,
And so it's like honoring where you are in this moment. And then if there's something, let me put it in a way, you may not have to stay there. And it's funny, we don't react the same way if it's joyful. Like if we're walking around joyful, nobody says, "Oh no, I'm joyful, I have to stop being joyful." Right? But if I'm walking around sad, we go, "Oh no, I can't be sad. I have to stop being sad." It's like, why? Because if you're feeling sad, how about honoring that you feel sad and having a closer look at what is it? What is it about the sadness? What is
yeah.
it? What is creating the sadness?
Yeah.
I can get curious about what's creating the joy as well. So why not be curious about what's creating sadness? What's creating anger? What's creating sleeplessness or sleepiness or
Depressiveness.
whatever, depressiveness,
Yeah.
depression. And just being there with that without the extra added pressure of I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be acting this way. I shouldn't one thing or another. No, it actually is irrelevant, should or shouldn't. It
Right.
is.
Why
It
am I?
is. It's
Why am?
just
Why
what it is.
am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going on with me? What do I need? I
I
might be
mean,
a bear. I might be a bear. I might need to go into hibernation for a while and be quiet, be a lot at home, maybe bake things, maybe, I don't know, whatever it is you need. It's what you need.
yeah.
If it is what you need and truly what you need, then it's what you need. And then how can you give that to yourself? So be a bear. If you're a bear, be a bear.
Yeah, I mean, because sadness, and like you said, saying we always try to figure out, saying like, oh, sadness is such a bad place, and it's not a great place to be, but
Might not
that's where you
feel
are,
so good.
right? That's where you are, And once you've identified that that's what you are and that's where you are, now you have to really go back up a little bit, back to the note prior to this, right? Back up to this and say, okay, how did I get here? Why am I here? Right. And now you can identify, now you start to identify how you got there. Right. Because sometimes you can get up in the morning, you could be all energetic and happy or whatever. And then by 12 o'clock, you mad, depressed, angry, and you trying to figure out, like, I woke up this morning, I was happy. How did I get here? And you realize that it was something somebody said to you or something that was done at work. Right. And something that was done at work that set you off for the rest of the day. It happened at 8 o'clock this morning that, you went to work at 7, something happened at 8, right? And set you off all day. So for, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, for 4 hours, you've been in this very negative, depressive state, and you don't even know why, right? You don't even know why. But, you have to identify it so that you can, because once you identify, now you can deal with it. And you have to deal with yourself. You got to deal with it. And, and once you deal with it, that's part of growth. That's growth. Because now you know what set you off. Now you know what triggered whatever the thing is that you're not happy about, right? And now you know how to deal with it. Now you start developing ways on to deal with that thing. When it comes to, sad or whatever the case is, right? It's learning yourself. It's about sitting back. And if you want to be a bear, be a bear. You know what I'm saying? I want to hibernate, right? As long as when you get through hibernating, you know that, you can't stay in hibernation mode, right? You got to come up out of there, right? And you got to enjoy life and, just be happy that you got to hibernate. You know what I'm saying? I got to hibernate for 3 hours. Yeah, and be happy about it. And then go out and live life with some energy or whatever, right? Why are you so happy? I got to hibernate, right? But take that time to hibernate, to do whatever it is you want to do, right? But you have to take that time to do it so that you're not stuck in it, right? Because if you don't go hibernate, you're gonna long to hibernate. You're gonna always look to hibernate. And anything that's stopping you from hibernating, you're gonna attack it, rah, like a bear. You're gonna attack, rah, because you're not getting to hibernate. Go hibernate, right? Hey, look, shut it down, cut the phone off, lock the door. Go sit down somewhere. The kids, you got little kids or whatever, of course, you got to handle your biz. But, take the time to hibernate. Go do what you have to do. And identify why this hibernation was so important to you. Mm-hmm. Go and identify why this point of hibernation was so important to you. Why did you feel you need this? Right? Because I got this going on. I got that going on. I got to go. Okay. And I don't have enough time to do everything that I need to do. Okay. So now you just identified, 1, you got too much going on in your life. Is all of this stuff important? 2, right? Time management, right? If all of this stuff is necessary for me to get done in 24 hours, I need to work on my time management more so that I can get things done. But take the time to hibernate and enjoy your hibernation so that you can come out of it, feel better, and maybe open your mind to possibilities of how not to get back to that state.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about right at the beginning, and we're going to start rounding off now because we're almost at the hour. Hibernation might, if you're a bear, just as an example, if you're a bear or any animal that needs hibernation might be your vitamin supplement, right? If you need a vitamin D and hibernation is your vitamin D, then hibernate. In the same way that you would take vitamin D or whatever medicine you need to take, whatever you need to do, that is what you need to do. So if you have hibernation deficiency, then you need to hibernate. If you have vitamin D deficiency, you need to take vitamin D. And so again, and nobody can really tell you what your seasons are, what your cycles are. That is something, the beauty of being present is I know who I am and I know what I need, and I can put that in words and I can put that into actions, and I can take care of myself or let people know what I need. And nobody can tell me that it's otherwise, because I know, I'm in touch with myself and I know. I've had people tell me that I am seriously psychologically ill. And I have just sat there and known that they are wrong. And they are wrong. It was something about them. It had nothing to do with me. It had something to do with them.
I was just finna say that. It's really funny
because I've actually told people, I've had, my whatever test done. I was like, I'm not, there was nothing wrong with me. And they went, well, we knew that, but other people use that sometimes. It's a way of them trying to maneuver in their own life. But I know, like, there is nothing wrong with me. I don't have to worry about that. As long as I'm in contact with myself, in touch with myself, and taking care of myself, there is no doubt in every moment who I am, what I need, where I'm going.
Just because my life cycles don't run like your life cycles don't mean I'm crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Our timing may be off, even in music.
Yep.
Some people play, and we've had actually musicians, one of them plays 2/3 time and one of them plays 3/4 time, and they make it work. It sounds really cool. But if you try and break it down, it screws you up. But if you just listen to it, it's really cool. And they're on two completely different cycles. So it can, it's sort of like giving space to it, getting curious about it, allowing it to happen, being with it, getting to know it, and finding the beautiful in it. So yeah, seasonal affective disorder, yeah, it doesn't have to own you. You can own it. Those are going to be my final words. It doesn't have to own you. You can own it. And as mentioned, if you would like to talk to me a little bit more, you are more than welcome to contact me. This is my contact information here. Email, or you can go to my website that is on there. My name is Miriam Siegel. I'm a clinical psychotherapist and a lot of other things. And I just said that just to bug Malcolm because he's got a lot of cool titles. So I just, yeah. So Malcolm, the last minute or two, what would you like to say in closing about yourself?
In closing, man, everybody has their own cycle, and no other person can really tell you your cycle, right? And you have to pay attention to your own life cycle. You got to pay attention to your own life. Yeah, you can go get a coach. You can go get coaches, and but they can't help you if you can't identify what your cycle is, right? Your life cycle or your seasons, and you know what I'm saying. So make sure that you're paying attention to yourself and seek help if you need it, right? Whether it's medical help, whether it's coaching, whether it's whatever, seek the help that you need, right? At least to get you to the next level or get you beyond where you're at right now, right? And just love yourself enough to give yourself a chance, right? That's all I got.
Thank you. If anybody liked what they heard Malcolm talk about today, his contact information is at the bottom of the screen, his website and his email. Please don't hesitate to contact him. I think he's kind of cool. So thanks everybody for participating. Just kind of cool, Malcolm. Not very cool, just kind of cool. I love you. So we thank you all of those of you who have participated and shared your comments. And we look forward to seeing you next week at the same time in the same place. This is the Presence Posse signing off for this week. Have a great week, everyone.